can break the dark. A single spark ignites the heart. But if we turn when justice calls, the chains we forge will bind us all. When truth is silenced, when lies take hold, the cost is freedom, the soul grows cold. No one stands tall while another must fall. Freedom for one depends on freedom for all. We're mavericks of freedom, rebels in the fight, defending every voice, defending every right. For the moment we falter, the moment we stall, we lose our own freedom when we let others fall. You can't stand free while others kneel. When justice fades, it's freedom they steal. An innocent condemned, a crime unspoken, and with it the bond of liberty is broken. No tyrant rules without our consent. Oppression thrives where silence is spent. Stand for the weak, the silence the small, or freedom will crumble for us all. We're mavericks of freedom, guardians of the light, fighting for the truth, for what is just and right. For the rights of one are the rights of all. We rise or we fall by answering the call. Even those we may oppose deserve the rights we all uphold. For if we deny them what is fair, we build our own prison in despair. The fight's not easy, it never will be, but justice for one is the key to be free. We stand as mavericks, together we strive, defending the rights that keep freedom alive. We're mavericks of freedom, rebels in the fight, upholding every truth, protecting every right. When one is oppressed, we're all in the thrall. Freedom for one depends on freedom for all. So take a stand, let your courage rise. Defend the truth, don't compromise. For the soul of the world, the writing's on the wall. Freedom for one depends on freedom for all.
Greetings, Mavericks and new viewers. Tonight, direct and live from the Maverick News Network World Studios. This is Maverick News with Rick Walker.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Maverick News Channel. Great to have everyone here. Trump crumbles again on tariffs. Oh, yeah. He thought Xi Jinping would come a-running and a-calling, and that is not what has happened. Instead, today, Trump has announced more new exemptions on the tariffs he just announced the other day. Agent of chaos. What else do we have for you tonight? We have Trump, and then we have more Trump, and then there's more Trump after that, and then we have another story about Trump, and then we have the Canadian election, which is about Trump, and Bernie Sanders talking about Trump. Your Trump newscast begins right after this.
You know, someone very profoundly once said many years ago that if fascism ever comes to America, it'll come in the name of liberalism.
Well, I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on Earth.
The entire world is watching.
Every dictator, every crazy dictator in the world is watching.
The world is watching. On TV. The entire world is watching. On social media.
But the entire world is watching, and yes, they are seeing what we have apparently bravely been willing to say that others are thinking.
Stand for freedom. Literally stand for freedom. Let's get this done. The entire world is watching.
We're at war with the most dangerous enemy that has ever faced mankind in his long climb from the swamp to the stars.
Maverick News. Maverick News. Maverick News.
Let me have more control of my own destiny.
The world is watching.
Okay, so we've been covering these rallies for Pierre Poilievre and Mark Carney, but we don't have one tonight. We do have some other developments on the Canadian election front, which we will get to. Pierre Poilievre today talking about veterans, Mark Carney talking about encouraging staycations, essentially stay in Canada vacations, in response to concerns, fears about people crossing the border into the United States. And I understand why. I totally get it. But before we get to that, let's go to Los Angeles, City of Angels, where Bernie Sanders, being introduced by Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez at a Fight the Oligarchy rally. And I bring this to you tonight to show you, again, that for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. And we're getting that tonight in scale because, man, what a huge turnout at this rally. Now, if this triggers you, because you're pro-MAGA, I can't help it. We're here to show you reality, and you're just going to have to deal with it. Can you handle the truth? Here we go. Let me bring it up. Okay, here's AOC talking about her childhood and her dad getting
middle
cancer.
Of the 2008 recession.
Here we go.
So many of us live like this. One accident, one bad day, one piece of bad news away from our lives falling apart. We don't have to live like this anymore, Los Angeles. We can stand with one another and stand for ourselves. And we might come from different places, but we share the same experiences. So to all who came here today unsure of whether this is where you belong, I want to say that you do. No matter if you have all the right words to say, no matter your race, religion, gender identity, or status, no matter if you disagree with me on some things, but if you are willing to fight for someone that you don't know, you are welcome here. If you are willing to fight for working people regardless of who they are, how they identify, you are welcome here. Because here, everyone is valued. But we have to stand together. We cannot be tempted to turn in our neighbors or be fooled into thinking that we are really that much different from a trans kid who wants to get accepted by their friends. That we're that different from a dreamer who worked to go to college and try to provide for their family. That we're that different from anyone who's not like us. Hate is a trap that sinks us all. And it is standing together without exception to reject division. That is the only way we can win. It's the only way we can win. So I hope you see that this movement is not about partisan labels or purity tests, but it's about class solidarity. It is about the thousands of you who came out here today to stand together and say our lives deserve dignity and our work deserves respect. No matter who we are here to make a sacred promise to each other. And our goal today is to commit to building the kind of country we all deserve. And we will make that promise to take care of each other on our worst days and to share in the successes of our best. Thank you so much, Los Angeles. And it is my honor here today to introduce someone who has dedicated his life to bringing us together. So let's get loud and let's be grateful because Senator Bernie Sanders is in the building. Come on down, Bernie.
Power to the people. Power to the people. Power to the people. Power to the people, right on. Power to the people. Power to the people. Power to the people. Power to the people, right on.
There are people a half a mile away. Let me... Nope. It's not Bernie, it is you. Let me thank our brothers and sisters in the trade union movement for being here. Let me thank Unite Here, LiUNA Local 724, ILWU, the Longshoremen, CNA nurses, NNN nurses, NUHW Kaiser nurses, UTLA, UAW, California Labor Federation, AFL-CIO. And today we pledge with our brothers and sisters in the trade union movement, we are going to grow the movement. Millions of workers want to join unions because they know they're going to get better wages, better benefits, better working conditions. Let's do it. And I want to thank the musicians who have been with us today. So great. Ray's Gospel Choir, thank you. The Red Pears, Jeff Rosenstock, Indigo de Souza, Dirty Projectors, Joan Baez, Maggie Rogers, Neil Young. And you know why we had all of these great musicians here today? It's not just to entertain you. It's more than that. We're going to make our revolution with joy. We're going to sing and dance our way to victory against hatred and divisiveness. So I want to thank all of the musicians who have been with us. And I want to thank the political leaders who have been here, Ro and Pramila and Jimmy. Thank you. And mostly, I want to thank all of you. And I want to tell you something. You are making Donald Trump. We need a medic. Medic. Okay? Okay. Your presence here today, and by the way, there are some 36,000 of you.
Wow.
The largest rally that we have ever had.
Wow.
And
That's a
your
big crowd.
presence here today is making Donald Trump and Elon Musk very nervous. Last time we did a rally in Denver, a little bit smaller than this. Thank you, LA.
Look at that girl in the blue. She is like so
Elon
pumped
Musk
up.
announced
She's so
that
excited.
everybody at the rally, or most of the people,
Right on the
were paid organizers.
She's just like, oh my God, she is just full of energy.
Anybody here get paid to come today? And Donald Trump, very envious of sizes, he said, well, Bernie has rallies of 2,000 or 3,000 people, can't compete with Trump. He lied. So I invite the president to come to LA. Tell the people here why you think it's a great idea to cut Medicaid and nutrition and health care so you can give tax breaks to billionaires. The people of LA would love to hear that. So why are we here in LA today? And the answer is obvious. We are living in a moment of extraordinary danger. And how we respond to this moment will not only impact our lives, but will impact the lives of our kids and future generations. And in terms of the climate, it will depend, we can depend on whether or not the planet Earth survives. That's why we're here today. We're living at a moment where a handful of billionaires control the economic and political life of our country. We're living in a moment with a president who has no understanding or respect for the Constitution of the United States. And let us make no doubt about it, moving us rapidly toward an authoritarian form of society. And Mr. Trump, we ain't going there. We are living in a moment where the Republican Party has, to a large degree, become a cult of the individual, obeying Trump's every wish And at a time of massive income and wealth inequality, right now, as we speak, they are plotting about how they can give $1.1 trillion in tax breaks to the 1% and devastate programs that working families need. You know, it's funny. Just yesterday, our good friend Elon Musk Mr. Musk sent out a tweet, and in essence, he said, you know, Bernie Sanders has been talking about the growth of oligarchy year after year after year. Well, Elon, you're damn right. That's what I've been talking about. The difference is, I'm no longer talking about how we're moving to oligarchy. I'm talking about how we are living today in an oligarchic form of society. 3 months ago, when Trump was inaugurated, standing right behind him during his inauguration were the three wealthiest people in this country, Mr. Musk, Mr. Bezos, and Mr. Zuckerberg. And right behind them were 13 other billionaires who Trump had nominated to head up major federal agencies. And that, brothers and sisters, is what oligarchy is all about. You know, lately, given what's happening in America, I've been remembering the history lessons that I learned when I was in the 6th grade. And I remember, and I think many of you will recall, when you think about your education, you'll remember hearing about Abraham Lincoln on the fields of Gettysburg in 1863. And that was just a few days after 20,000 Union soldiers had either died or been wounded fighting against the nightmare of slavery. And Lincoln looked out on that field, and this is what he said, and you will all remember it. He said, quote, we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. And that is precisely why we are here today, to make sure that government of, by, and for the people does not perish, and that we do not become a government of the billionaire class, by the billionaire class, and for the billionaire class. The American people do not want the richest guy on earth running all over Washington, D.C., decimating the Social Security Administration, making it harder. It's the richest guy on earth, making it harder for old people with disabilities to get the benefits that they paid into. Proposing to lay off 83,000 workers at the Veterans Administration. Denying the health care that the men and women who put their lives on the line to defend us deserve. Slashing the Department of Education. Decimating USAID, which, by the way, means that hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of the most desperate people in this world will die as a result. And when we talk about oligarchy, it is not just economics. I trust that all of you know that you are living under a corrupt campaign finance system which allows billionaires to buy elections. Don't tell me about democracy when Musk himself can put $270 million to elect Donald Trump and then get rewarded with the most important position in government. But it's not just Musk and Republicans, it's the Democratic Party as well. Their billionaires tell candidates, don't stand up to the powerful special interest. And too many Democrats are listening to them. And that is why if we want to preserve democracy in America, we've got to overturn this disastrous Citizens United Supreme Court decision. And we're going to move to public funding of elections. In America, one person, one vote, not billionaires buying elections. And let me tell you something about the oligarchs. They are very, very religious people. But their religion is not based on doing unto others as you would have them do unto you. Their religion is not based on love or justice. Their religion is based on greed, greed, and more greed. All over this country, in Vermont, California, all over this country, we have a serious problem with drug addiction, with alcoholism, with other forms of addiction. But in my honest opinion, the most serious addiction crisis we face is the addiction of the oligarchy toward greed. They got billions and billions of dollars. It's not enough. They need more. And if they have to step on the poor and the disabled and working class people, that is what they will do unless we stop them, and we will stop them. But it's not just oligarchy we are fighting. We're fighting, okay, EMT. Okay, raise your hand where the problem is. Okay, can we get somebody there? We got it, somebody? Okay, thank you. But it's not just oligarchy we are fighting. We're fighting a president who undermines our Constitution every day and threatens our freedom of speech and assembly, and whose agents are rounding up innocent people off the streets, putting them in unmarked vans and throwing them in detention centers. That is what happens in dictatorships, not democracies. And we're going to stop that outrageous action on the part of the president. You know, our founding fathers of this country were no dummies. They wrote a constitution and established a form of government with a separation of powers. Remember we're reading all about that? You got a legislative body, Congress. You got an executive branch, president. You got a judiciary, the federal courts. And they wrote that document because they had just fought a brutal war against the autocratic King of England. And what they understood as they were forming this new country, that they never wanted to see a nation where one person had unlimited power. Well, Trump wants that power. We are not giving it to him. Trump is suing the media because they say bad things about him. Oh, how horrible is that? He has sued ABC, CBS, Meta, the Des Moines Register. his FCC is investigating NPR and PBS. He loves the media when they fawn over him, but he can't take criticism. This from a guy who has made vulgar comments about his opponents. Hey, Mr. President, if you can't take criticism, get out of politics. That's what democracy is about. Trump is going after the powers of Congress. He is illegally abolishing agencies that Congress created. He's withholding funding that Congress has appropriated. He is establishing tariffs that he has no legal right to do. But it's not just the media and Congress that he's trying to intimidate. In an absolutely outrageous and unconstitutional way, he is going after the judiciary. His view is if a decision comes down from a judge that you don't like, you try to get rid of that judge and impeach him or her. He is going after law firms that have opposed him and his interest in the past, and disgracefully, a number of these law firms have caved in. He is going after universities. You know, the function of a university, school of higher education, is to pursue the truth, not to cave in to an authoritarian president to protect the federal grants they get. But it is not just Trump's and his administration's domestic policy that we should be concerned about. For the first time in our 250-year history, we have a president who is aligning himself with dictatorship abroad. No, Mr. Trump, Ukraine did not start that war. Putin and Russia did. We must lead the world in supporting democracies, not supporting Putin and dictatorships. So let me tell you something else. Trump wants over $8 billion more dollars to go to Netanyahu's war machine. Israel has a right to defend itself against terrorism, but it does not have a right to go to war against the entire Palestinian people. It does not have the right to kill 50,000 people, injure over 100,000, and destroy the entire infrastructure. And as bad as that is, Trump wants to expel the 2.2 million people in Gaza in order to create a playground for his billionaire friends. That is beyond insane, and we will never, never let that happen. Brothers and sisters, not just oligarchy and authoritarianism. Our job right now, at a time when the very richest people in America are becoming phenomenally richer, our job is to create an economy that works for all of us, not just the people on top. All right, I'm going to do something radical here. You ready? I'm going to tell the truth. I'm going to talk about what's really going on in America today, and that is we are living with two Americas. One America, the people on top, have never, ever in the history of our country had it so good. Today, we have more income and wealth inequality than we have ever had. The 3 wealthiest people own more wealth than the bottom half of American society, 170 million people. The top 1%, 1% owns more wealth than the bottom 90%, and the CEOs of major corporations now earn 300 times what their workers are making. Is there a medical issue? All right, we need an EMT there. Raise your hand, guys. But it's not just income and wealth inequality. We have more concentration of ownership today than we have ever had. We have a handful of corporations owning sector and sector of our economy. So that is one America. People on top doing phenomenally well. Let me tell you about the other America that you know very, very well. And that is that 60% of our people are living paycheck to paycheck. Anybody here living paycheck to paycheck? All right, unlike Donald Trump, I grew up in a family that lived paycheck to paycheck, so I know a little bit about that. And the result of living paycheck to paycheck is such, if you can believe it, that working class people in America die 7 years earlier than the rich. All right, going to ask you a question. Why is that? All right, you got it. The answer is stress. If you got to worry every single day how you're going to feed your kids, how you're going to pay the rent, how you're going to make sure that your car doesn't break down so you can get to work, how you're going to afford to provide for your kid when your kid gets sick and needs to go to a doctor, how you have to work when your schedule is changed every day and you have a boss who doesn't care about you. When you live under those conditions day after day, year after year, it eats away at your body, it eats away in your mind. We need to create an economy where all of our people can live out their life expectancy in the way that they should. And you know why people all over this country are angry? In fact, some of them end up voting for Trump. Let me tell you something you don't hear much about in the corporate media or in the halls of Congress. Today, if you can believe it, despite a huge increase in worker productivity, real inflation accounted for wages are lower today than they were 52 years ago. So workers are producing more and more, but all of what they produce, all of the benefits are going to the top 1%. And during that same period, we have seen a $75 trillion transfer of wealth from the bottom 90% to the top 1%. Today in America, half of older workers have nothing in the bank as they face retirement. And 22% of our seniors are living on $15,000 a year or less, and 800,000 Americans are sleeping out on the streets. Today, as I look at this great crowd, I remember another rally that I attended. I wasn't up here, I was way, way back. And that was in 1963. I was in Washington for Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s great I Have a Dream speech. And the truth is, while many, many problems remain, we should be proud that we have made significant progress in fighting racism. And I can remember several decades ago that in the United States Senate, there were all of 2 women, virtually no women governors, no, very few women in the House. Hundreds of women died every year because they could not access legal abortions. I can remember growing up when young people who were gay were ashamed to acknowledge that and suffered in their silence. And nobody back then would have dreamed that we would achieve gay marriage in many states in this country. So my point is that we have made and should be proud of the fact that we have made progress in a number of enormously important areas. But we should also be conscious that in perhaps the most important issue, the economic struggle that so many Americans are now engaged in, we have lost ground. Back in 1944, President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, one of the great presidents in the history of our country, he gave a State of the Union address. And this is what he said back in 1944. He said, you know what? We are a great country. We have a great Constitution. We have freedom of speech, freedom of religion, etc. But what we need to add to that is to understand that economic rights are human rights. That if you can't afford to go to a doctor, doesn't really matter about voting. If you can't afford to feed your kids, freedom of assembly doesn't matter that much. He said economic rights are human rights. So today, in the year 2025, we have got to pick up that banner. Economic rights are human rights. Every single person is entitled to that. And this gets to a very fundamental issue. Musk and his friends see you as nothing more than workers to be disposed of. They got rid of tens of thousands of federal workers, and when information, artificial information, and robotics comes, they're going to throw you out on the street as well. They don't give a damn about you. They don't give a damn about your kids. And what we have got to do is say, sorry, we are human beings. And we are entitled to certain fundamental economic rights. So no, we are not going to give more tax breaks to billionaires. We're going to demand that they start paying their fair share of taxes. No, we're not going to keep a federal minimum wage of $7.25 an hour. We're going to raise that wage to a living wage. No worker in America should live in poverty. End of discussion. And we're going to pass the PRO Act to make sure that employers cannot act illegally when workers are trying to form unions. We're going to grow the trade union movement. In America, we're not going to turn our backs on our parents and grandparents who helped build this country. We're not going to cut Social Security. We're going to expand Social Security benefits. And by the way, we're going to reestablish defined benefit pensions for workers in this America. Instead of making massive cuts to Medicaid, we must do what every other major country on earth does. It ain't radical. Health care is a human right. We're going to guarantee health care to all. Through a Medicare for all single-payer system. The function of healthcare is not to make the insurance companies and the drug companies rich. And we're going to stop paying 10 times more for some prescription drugs than the people of other countries. We can lower prescription drugs by 50%. Here in LA, in Burlington, Vermont, and all across this country, we have a major housing crisis. Am I right? And it's not just homelessness. It's people paying 40, 50, 60% of their limited incomes in housing. Instead of spending $1 trillion a year on the military, let's build 5 million units of low-income and affordable housing. Brothers and sisters, we live in a competitive global economy. And if we're going to effectively compete, we need the best educated workforce in the world. It is nothing less than insane and counterproductive that we have young people leaving higher education $50,000, $80,000 in debt. We need more doctors. You know what doctors are leaving medical school with? $500,000 in debt. Nurses are leaving $100,000 in debt. Education is a human right, from child care through college. We need sheet metal workers. We need carpenters. We need construction workers. We need apprenticeship programs. We need to make public colleges, universities, and trade schools tuition free. Donald Trump thinks that climate change is a quote-unquote hoax originating in China. This state, California, has gone through enough pain to know that climate change is not a hoax. It is an existential threat to this state, to Vermont, to the whole country, and the whole world. Instead of appeasing the fossil fuel industry, who are lying and destroying our planet, we're going to transform our energy system and lead the world into sustainable energy and energy efficiency. And we create millions of good-paying jobs as we do that. Look, I don't have to tell anyone here that this is a difficult moment in the modern history of our country. We've never gone through anything like this. But this is what I do want to say. Despair is not an option. Giving up and hiding under the covers is not acceptable. The stakes are just too high. And let me tell you, when Donald Trump looks out at this crowd and they pay attention to this stuff, and Elon Musk does, you are scaring the hell out of them. Because they know what you know and what I know, is that they are the 1%, we are the 99%. Back in 1857, when abolitionists were working day and night to end the nightmare of slavery, this is what Frederick Douglass, you all remember Frederick Douglass? Very great abolitionist. Listen closely to what he said, because it is as relevant today as it was back then in the fight against slavery. This is what he said, quote, "Power concedes nothing without a demand. It never did, and it never will. Find out just when any people will quietly submit to, and you have found out the exact measure of injustice and wrong which will be imposed upon them. And these will continue till they are resisted with either words or blows or with both. The limits of tyrants are prescribed by the endurance of those whom they oppress. The oligarchy will concede nothing. They have the wealth, they have the power, they own Congress, they own the White House, they own much of the media, but they don't own us. Now, I'm not going to tell you that it's going to be easy. It's not. We're going to have to fight them door to door, workplace to workplace, school to school. We're going to have to educate. We're going to have to mobilize. We're going to have to stand up in a dozen different ways. But from the bottom of my heart, and I've been to every state of this country, I don't care whether you're Republican, Democrat, or Independent, the people of this country do not want oligarchy. They do not want authoritarianism. And they want a government that works for all of us, not just the 1%. Thank you all very much.
Okay, we're going to take that down before we get hit with a copyright strike. Well, that was enlightening in this way. I took note of what he was saying about all those unions. You know what he's doing? He is he's expanding his tent to take in more of the working class again. That has been the key to MAGA's success. That is ground that was ceded by the Democrats to Trump and the MAGA movement. And he is bringing a lot of that back. And his timing is impeccable because the Trump tariffs are going to plunge the United States into a recession, if not a depression. There will be severe economic pain. Make no mistake of that. There will be massive inflation if these tariffs are implemented the way that Trump has said that they're going to be rolled out. I'm not sure he can keep his word on that because even though he doesn't like to admit when he is wrong, you're seeing such chaos in the markets and such pressure coming back on him from the oligarchs and others that he may not be able to stay the course. In fact, we're seeing today that he's already backing down and has already declared some pretty serious exemptions on these tariffs he has imposed on China, these massive, massive tariffs that he has imposed on China. Now, I did put together this highlight reel from that call the other night with our friend from, is it Iowa that he called in from? Anyway, our American friend, John, explaining the whole Great Reset, the Donald Trump Great Tariff Reset. You guys are worried about the Great Reset. I hate to break it to you, but there it is. It's happening right in front of you. It's just that a lot of people just refuse to acknowledge, refuse to see what is right in front of their face. I'm going to run this highlight reel, and when we come back, I'm going to explain why these Trump tariffs really reflect a pro-China policy or pro-Trump. These are Trump pro-China policies. There, that's the proper way to put it. And I'll explain why when we come back after I share this with you again.
Donald Trump's Great Reset Explained to Canadians by John, who says the U.S. doesn't need Canada at all.
These tariffs, now, okay, we are ready to have short-term suffering and to go through suffering, and on the other end of it, bring about the golden age of America. You're not buying my Alberta oil at a discount anymore. Full price, baby. Fuck you in the United States. You're not buying Alberta oil at a discount anymore. Pay up. We don't need your oil. I don't need my oil. America doesn't need your oil. We don't need you. Fuck you. We don't need you. No, hold on. We don't need you, you arrogant shit. We don't need you. You need America. You don't need us. We don't need you. We have all the oil we could ever need. You need potash, steel, aluminum. You need everything.
Hey!
Wow.
Hey! I thought you were coming on here to have a discussion.
We don't need your resources.
And you
need
harass
us. You need us. And it's time that you realize that. You need us. We don't need you. You understand?
Well,
we don't need you. We have poutine in America. I hate to break it to you, but thousands of French Canadians came to America. We have poutine. We have winter. We have everything that you have. God bless America and Canada. If you know what's best for you, vote for Polievre. Even though I can't say his name, vote for him. And America first. God bless President Trump. God bless America. Gulf of America.
Oh, Canada, our home and native land.
Say one thing, Rick. You, my friend, are an anti-American communist. Oh.
You poked the beaver.
It's funny and sad because if you go back even just a month ago, we were the best of friends. And now Americans and Canadians fighting. Canadians actually is so afraid just to travel to the United States. That's why today Mark Carney, as part of his election campaign, announced the strong, what's it called? The strong and free pass? The Canada Strong pass. Canada Strong pass. I'm going to take the audio down. Will I share this with you? He put together this promotional video to go with this, but I'm not going to share the audio because I don't want to get nailed with a copyright strike. So the whole idea here is to, I guess, get people to vacation in Canada this summer. Canada Strong Pass, to enjoy Canadian culture and Canadian history, free entry to national museums, especially for kids, discounts on all kinds of things, national parks and museums, free via rail travel for kids traveling with their families, their parents, I guess, or maybe even kids traveling alone. I'm not sure. Summer memories made affordable. Canada Strong, he says. So that is him. I guess in a way he's sort of buying votes with our tax dollars that way. But the idea is to try to get people to stay in Canada, vacation in Canada, and ease the pain of maybe not being able to go to the United States or not wanting to go to the U.S., providing an additional incentive to stay in Canada instead of going to the U.S. because of all the trade war anxiety and the feuding. And yes, we have had reports verified, John, in not in Iowa or the USA or wherever. I'm sorry, he's a regular viewer. And we love you. Even though you don't need us, we want you, John. I certainly do. Even though somebody said we don't need, yes, we do. We need you and we want you. We love you because you are our neighbor, our friend, our ally, even today, even though we had that heated exchange on the call-in show the other night. We need you. Of course we need you. Why wouldn't we? We're right next door to each other. Anyway, It is verified, but whatever I was talking about, I've lost my train of thought. It's just terrible. Everything that's going on, I'll tell you. And, you know, other things going on too, just as a sidebar before I kind of pull the conversation back over to the whole China issue. But I've noticed in the past week too, sort of a shift back to a little bit of normalcy in the social media sphere with Bill Maher went to the White House with Kid Rock to meet with Donald Trump and then came back with a positive review. I'm not going to run the clip because, again, I think I might get hit with a copyright strike with that program. I'm not so sure, maybe. Anyway, he says that Trump is more normal than you might think. And while he said that a lot of people didn't want him to go because they didn't really want him to talk to Trump, and a lot of people in the Trump camp told Trump that they didn't want him to talk to Bill Maher. He said, you know, well, what else are you going to do? Not talk? Of course you want to talk. And it went fairly well, I guess. And so Bill Maher's review of his meeting with Trump was his review is that Trump is more normal in private and more welcoming than you might imagine. But it doesn't mean the zany, crazy chaos isn't going to continue, because he said even though Trump tolerated him expressing concerns about Trump maybe even seeking a third term as president, which is unconstitutional, he said he welcomed his criticism, but didn't mean he wasn't still going to try to do it. And then on the Joe Rogan podcast, I don't know if you've seen the interview with Douglas Murray. He calls Joe Rogan out right on the program this week, and I definitely can't run that stuff because the Rogan program really protects the copyright. They really go after you if you run any of that stuff. At least they do. They come after me. In any event, Douglas Murray calls out Rogan for really platforming historical revisionists, people with inaccurate information who hide behind really, and I'm paraphrasing, I'm using my own words here, but ignorance. They use ignorance as a shield against criticism, saying, well, I'm not really a historian, but I'm going to talk about all this history. I'm really just a comedian, but I'm doing all these podcasts and even appearing on the Joe Rogan show to talk about history or politics or whatever they're speaking about, then saying they're not really an expert. So kind of throwing up their arms and saying, well, don't attack me. What did you expect? I'm not really a historian or an expert in this field. And Douglas Murray rightly points out that that's just not going to cut it. It's not acceptable. And it's dangerous because some of the people appearing on the Rogan podcast have been given a platform and a way to spread information that simply is inaccurate, untrue, and ideas that can sometimes be very divisive and even dangerous. You should go watch it. The Douglas Murray calls him out. And I think Douglas Murray was really pulling punches, was trying to be diplomatic, given that Joe Rogan is so popular. He has the number one, I guess, live stream podcast, long form interview program in the world right now. So I think he was trying to be, you know, just, as I say, diplomatic, but it didn't stop him from still being brave enough to go in there and call him out on it, because it's true. I've watched a lot of his stuff, and Douglas Murray is right on the money, man. And it's high time that somebody did it. And it took a conservative like Douglas Murray to do it, because Murray is brilliant. And I think overall pretty reasonable. I think he's one of the bright intellects of our time. Not Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan is just a celebrity, very popular, common speaking, effective communicator, but I wouldn't put him anywhere near the in the same league as someone like Douglas Murray. So I found it refreshing to see Douglas Murray do that, just because it needs to be done. Because the standards in terms of journalism, which have gone right out the window, but the standards for media have been eroded. There are no real professional standards being employed by independent streamers today, podcasters, live streamers. Mainstream media, rightly so, being heavily criticized for a lot of its indiscretions and mistakes and even lies, especially over, say, the last 4, 5, 10 years, maybe longer, right? They've lost the ethical high ground in many cases, and that's why a lot of people simply distrust mainstream media. But so too should you be distrustful of the independents, because a lot of them are just outright lying. It's, as Marshall McLuhan says, the medium is the message. And when it comes to, see, television in its day was accused of being a breeding ground for less ethical behavior, simply because television was a medium that required the pursuit of ratings. Less so with print journalism, where these ethical standards, I think, really have over time proven to be practiced in a more resilient way. Now, here with social media, the pursuit of ratings translates into the pursuit of clicks. And you get, and it's mentioned actually in that podcast with Douglas Murray and Joe Rogan. They refer to audience capture, and it happens all the time. And so what's really happening is polarization, because in order to get clicks, you really need to narrow your focus of subject matter, narrow your messaging so that it becomes very much more like a marketing message, where you're in a camp, you pick a team and you promote that. And then you get an audience that just wants to hear that message, and you repeat it over and over and over again, and you reinforce what people want to hear. And then they come back to you over and over again because they feel comfortable with it. They're not being challenged, and you create a little online world for everybody to come into, where it's their safe zone essentially, and they're getting information that is reflective of their personal worldview, which is also amplified and even molded over time by being in that world. But if you inject any information, as we do here, that is contrary to that, which is what we just did with the Bernie Sanders speech, that's not really conducive to building a channel or an audience, because I'm not just giving you only what you want to hear. I'm giving you a broader cross-section of information so that you can actually get closer to the truth, because I'm sharing old school journalism techniques and ethics, giving you the narrative, the counter narrative, all the different perspectives that I can in the amount of time allotted to us, so that you can then make better decisions based on the whole and enchilada, the whole truth, or as much of the whole truth as I can provide. That's not how you build a YouTube channel, though. That's why we don't have more subscribers and more viewers. But I'll tell you, what you are doing here is more important. And you have proven that you are the true critical thinkers, because you guys are the ones who are open to watching all of these different perspectives. And therefore, you are more educated because you are more informed, and you are going to come away with a more balanced perspective, a more truthful and honest perspective of the world around you, where you will be able to make a more informed decision and not just walk into a voting booth and put your X beside a name based on some sort of manipulation that you've been exposed to through the media. You're going to be exposed to it, but you're going to be exposed to a broader spectrum of manipulation, if you will. And through that, you'll be able to see a lot of the manipulation going on. That's why I don't sit here and say to people, don't go watch that guy. Don't just ignore that guy. If you have somebody telling you that you should ignore somebody, You should instantly, in my view, be very suspect of that person because they don't want you hearing what somebody else has to say. Go ahead. You go listen to, as far as I'm concerned, you go listen to anything you want. Now, I don't have to sit here and promote a lot of things that I know are not true, nor do I have to give people the platform here. I don't have to give it over to people so that they can promote things that aren't true. But it's all out there and you have at it. That's up to you. I'm not going to say don't go watch something. Somebody tells you that, your red flag should go up instantly because they don't want to be challenged. They don't want you challenged. They just want you on that intravenous drip of whatever information flow they want to inject into your brain. And, the problem with the pandemic is that when it came to especially mainstream media, they discredited themselves simply by repeating information from, official sources, which turned out in some cases not to be accurate. And then they blew their own credibility simply by, repeating that information. Although if you go back and you look at it, yeah, there were some people who were actually outright promoting it. Other people were attributing the information to official sources, government sources, healthcare agency sources, and others. But it wasn't really them. But by sharing the information, they were caught up in that takedown of credibility. And all of media has suffered as a result of that. Society has suffered because we really do need go-to sources that we know are overall generally pretty credible. And our mainstream media institutions have certainly taken a hit in that regard. And that has left the general populace ripe for the picking on the other side, where propagandists and others who seek to inject crazy ideas into people's heads have fertile ground in which to lay their information seeds and then grow crops of lies. Stay with me. Be right back on the other side.
Maverick News. Expose lies and tell truth. The world is watching.
Donald Trump's tariffs, intended to pressure China and protect the U.S. economic interests, may inadvertently be helping China in several strategic ways. First, the tariffs have accelerated China's push to diversify its trade relationships and reduce reliance on the U.S. market. As U.S.-China trade has declined in tariff-hit sectors like the auto parts and industry and semiconductors, China has also increased trade with partners like the EU, Mexico, and Vietnam, already boosting its global trade share by 4% since 2016. And this shift strengthens China's position as a global trade leader, positioning it as a more stable pro-globalization partner compared to the U.S., which is seen as increasingly protectionist. Oh, yeah, Donald Trump sits there and talks a good game about how he's against China, worried about China. China's the enemy, wants to go to war with China. Well, maybe he doesn't say he wants to go to war, but he certainly makes it clear he has initiated a trade war of monumental scale with another major economic power. And China, he thought would come running. He thought President Xi would be on the phone begging for a deal. He said in that one clip a few days ago that they're literally kissing his, well, I'll say butt, but he used the A word. In order to make a deal, they're all kissing my you-know-what to make a deal. Not President Xi. He hasn't done that. And now as a result of that, what are we seeing today? Trump backing down, showing that he's not as tough as he wants the world to think. Or at least the United States doesn't really hold all the cards after all. Because here, just check this headline here. Trump exempts phones, computer chips from new tariffs. NBC and others reporting tonight President Donald Trump exempted smartphones, computers, and other tech devices and components from his new tariffs. New guidance from U.S. Customs and Border Protection shows. Oops! Backtrack, bend the knee. Just kidding, I guess. Again, the guidance issued last night comes after Trump earlier this month imposed 145% tariffs on products from China. A move that threatened to take a toll on tech giants like Apple, which makes iPhones and most of its other products in China, as Donald Trump would say. The guidance also includes exclusions from other electronic devices and components, including semiconductors, solar cells, flat panel TV displays, flash drives, memory cards. I played you that clip the other night of Howard Lutnick talking about, oh, we're going to bring those jobs back where people can put those little tiny screws into the cell phones right here. Yeah, not happening. It's going to be automated if the factories come back at all. The White House said today that the exemptions were made because Trump wants to ensure that companies have time to move production to the U.S. Maybe he should have thought about that before he started with his bluster talking about how he was going to hammer China with these massive 145% tariffs. The reality is the stock market was thrown into chaos. We got a roller coaster ride, which I think maybe benefited some people in ways that it ought not to have done. But yeah, when he was pulling the levers up and down, the stock market went like a yo-yo. And if you knew when this lever was going to be pulled or that one, you stood to make a few extra bucks, maybe a few extra $billion bucks. It's just so freaking obvious, isn't it? And nevertheless, as a result of all that, it also became painfully obvious that if he left these tariffs in place, a cell phone would end up costing, I don't know, maybe about $3,000. Yeah, I think he might get some pushback from the public the next time they go to renew their cell phone plan. So yeah, he's going to give them time to relocate their factories. Then he'll put the tariffs on. It doesn't work that way, man. And I'll tell you why it doesn't work that way. Because nobody's going to build a plant when you have this on again, off again tariff game playing. They don't have any certainty. Why would somebody invest? Any company invest hundreds of millions or maybe billions of dollars into building production capacity in the United States when they don't know if 6 months from now the tariffs will even remain in place, or a year from now, or 3 years from now? That's a major investment. You need to get your investment back over the long haul, like 10, 20 years, maybe longer, to get the investment back on that capital that you pump in. And if the tariffs aren't in place, then the economics might not work 6 months from now or a year from now, in which case you may need to move your production out of the country again. It depends. So it's not going to bring that production back, and Xi isn't going to do it. It's also because China does not rely just on the United States as its main trading partner. It certainly doesn't. It has diversified its trade. It always has. They're not as dependent on the U.S. as Donald Trump would have us believe. Honestly, nor is any country, ultimately. And the policies of Donald Trump are destined to inflict massive pain on the American people. Studies out just within the last 24 hours, or at least comments from very respected economists indicate that the average American family, based on the tariffs in place as they sat, yesterday up until last night, and even now, about $4,700 in additional costs to purchase their basket of goods every year. A $4,700 tax hit, essentially. And I think it's going to be a lot worse than that, because you're going to get economic linkages through the entire supply chain, through the entire economy, the tariffs on anything coming into the country, that will filter into every other product and service out there. because it adds costs to everything. This is the dumbest trade war in history. And here's Donald Trump responding to that just within the last 24 hours, saying he loves China, but it's just not acceptable anymore.
What happens with China? We would love to be able to work a deal. They've really taken advantage of our country for a long period of time. They've ripped us off beyond nobody. How people stood for it, sitting in my position, is not even believable. And we're talking about many presidents, not just a couple. But they did, and all we're doing is putting it back in shape. We're resetting the table.
Great reset.
And, I'm sure that we'll be able to get along very well. I have great respect for President Xi. He's been, in a true sense, he's been a friend of mine for a long period of time. And I think that we'll end up working out something that's very good for both countries. What happens with China?
Mm-hmm. Yes and no. Just these across the board broad sweeping tariffs, these are incredibly damaging. Specific, targeted, strategically placed tariffs, yeah, it can be used potentially as an economic tool to get a positive result, but not this. This is insane. And American consumers ultimately will suffer. Absolutely. And you're saying he's backing down. He's backing down. Yeah. The cost of an iPhone, as I'm just looking it up here, under the Trump tariff plan, could balloon to as high as $3,500. You want to pay $3,500 just for the phone? US. Now, Canada, not really going to be subjected to that same level of pain, because the response that I have seen indicates that the Canadian response is more targeted, and it is not really reliant simply on tariffs. For example, while the provincial and federal governments in Canada have been talked about dollar for dollar response, they're not just using tariffs. See, they're doing things like pulling U.S. alcohol products off shelves. That's not so much a tariff. That's just saying we're not going to sell those products in government liquor stores, which is different than imposing, a little bit different than imposing a tariff. And so in that regard, yeah, there is an impact on consumers, but it doesn't quite work out the same way as like a straight up tariff does. Nor is it really a ban. It's just them saying, no, we're not going to sell these products in these government stores. Anyway, let's move on a little bit from that, shall we? Because we've just gone on and on about the tariffs themselves. But as I sit here and talk about Donald Trump and the tariffs and how they, really are benefiting in many respects China, because it's pushing China into the arms of other countries who are welcoming more trade with China. It really, reminds me very much of what went on back in the 1970s with Nixon, who really went to China, and he's sort of, strangely enough, also a Republican back in the day. He is the one who kind of worked to normalize relations with China. In February of 1972, he made a historic visit to China, the first by a U.S. president, and it marked a pivotal shift in U.S.-China relations. And the visit aimed to, as I say, normalize diplomatic ties after over 2 decades of hostility since the communist victory in 1949. And why did he do it? Well, the Cold War defined Nixon's foreign policy, with the Soviet Union as the primary U.S. adversary, the Sino-Soviet split escalating into broader clashes by 1969, created an opportunity, and Nixon and National Security Advisor Henry Kissinger pursued a triangular diplomacy strategy, leveraging improved U.S.-China relations to counterbalance at the time Soviet influence. And by engaging China, Nixon aimed to pressure the Soviets into détente, easing global tensions and advancing arms control talks. And at the time, part of the whole lasting peace plan that Nixon sought with China included more trade. In 1969, Nixon eased travel and trade restrictions, allowing U.S. firms to sell limited goods to China. By 1971, he ended the 21-year trade embargo, permitting non-strategic exports like agricultural products. And that was driven by strategic goals. Trade fostered goodwill, encouraging China's cooperation on geopolitical issues. And while most favored nation status came later, like in 1980 under Jimmy Carter, Nixon's policies laid the groundwork. His administration normalized commercial exchanges. It culminated in the 1972 Shanghai Communique, which outlined mutual economic interests. See, Nixon knew that the path to peace was normalized relations, even though you didn't align necessarily ideologically, but you had a common interest, which was peace. And by working with China and expanding or opening the door to more trade, he managed to, I think, help lift China economically, lift a lot of people out of poverty through mutually beneficial trade with China at the time. And he also managed to, in a way, get an uneasy alliance going with China that strengthened the U.S. position against then, at that time, the Soviet Union. How times have changed. And now we see Trump giving more rhetoric and bluster against China, threatening China, rattling the saber. Like his whole policy is upside down, backwards, and self-destructive, and yet beneficial to the very adversary that he claims to have in China. And he claims to not be really tough on Russia while he's taking kid gloves to Russia. A lot of this stuff, the whole thing actually doesn't make sense. But here's Nixon in 1972 talking about sending Kissinger over there and explaining his policies of the time.
Good evening. I have requested this television time tonight to announce a major development in our efforts to build a lasting peace in the world. As I have pointed out on a number of occasions over the past 3 years, there can be no stable and enduring peace without the participation of the People's Republic of China and its 750 million people. That is why I have undertaken initiatives in several areas to open the door for more normal relations between our two countries. In pursuance of that goal, I sent Dr. Kissinger, my assistant for national security affairs, to Peking during his recent world tour for the purpose of having talks with Premier Zhou Enlai. The announcement I shall now read is being issued simultaneously in Peking and in the United States. Premier Zhou Enlai and Dr. Henry Kissinger, President Nixon's assistant for national security affairs, held talks in Peking from July 9 to 11, 1971. Knowing of President Nixon's expressed desire to visit the People's Republic of China, Premier Zhou Enlai, on behalf of the government of the People's Republic of China, has extended an invitation to President Nixon to visit China at an appropriate date before May 1972. President Nixon has accepted the invitation with pleasure. The meeting between the leaders of China and the United States is to seek the normalization of relations between the two countries and also to exchange views on questions of concern to the two sides. In anticipation of the inevitable speculation which will follow this announcement, I want to put our policy in the clearest possible context. Our action in seeking a new relationship with the People's Republic of China will not be at the expense of our old friends. It is not directed against any other nation. We seek friendly relations with all nations. Any nation can be our friend without being any other nation's enemy. I have taken this action because of my profound conviction that all nations will gain from a reduction of tensions and a better relationship between the United States and the People's Republic of China. It is in this spirit that I will undertake what I deeply hope will become a journey for peace. Peace not just for our generation, but for future generations on this earth we share together. Thank you and good night.
Only Nixon could go to China. I don't know really what the heck Donald Trump is doing, because what he's doing is actually pro-China. It's benefiting China, not the United States, not at this point. So stay buckled up, because the roller coaster ride is far from over.
You know, someone very profoundly once said many years ago that if fascism ever comes to America, it'll come in the name of liberalism.
Well, I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth.
The entire world is watching.
Every dictator, every crazy dictator in the world is watching.
The world is watching. On TV, the entire world is watching. On social media.
But the entire world is watching, and yes, they are seeing what we have apparently bravely been willing to say that others are thinking.
Stand for freedom. Literally stand for freedom. Let's get this done. The entire world is watching.
We're at war with the most dangerous enemy that has ever faced mankind in his long climb from the swamp to the stars.
Maverick News. Maverick News. Maverick News.
Let me have more control of my own destiny.
The world is watching.
Just to recap that, I mean, Nixon sought peace and trade with China, and he was using that to weaken the Soviet Union and stabilize Asia. He used liberalized trade as a diplomatic carrot. Trump, conversely, is using tariffs and restrictions to counter China's economic dominance, reflecting a shift from cooperation to confrontation. And Nixon's gamble reshaped the world. Trump seeks to reclaim control with outcomes still to be realized or exposed. So again, stay tuned, because it's going to get rocky. Trump takes a pretty unorthodox approach to a lot of things, including the media. He claims to be all about free speech, but he doesn't, as Bernie Sanders quite rightly points out, he does not like to be criticized. And if you do, you do so at your own risk. Miles Taylor, author of the book Blowback, also, I wouldn't call him exactly a whistleblower, but he is a former U.S. government official and national security expert who served in the Department of Homeland Security from 2017 to 2019, including as chief of staff during the first Trump administration. He gained prominence after anonymously authoring the 2018 New York Times op-ed titled, "I am part of the resistance inside the Trump administration." At the time, I thought maybe it was just bunk or, a fake anonymous source, but no, it was Miles Taylor. And he described efforts by officials to mitigate what he called Trump's misguided impulses in the first administration. Taylor later revealed his identity in 2020, published a book under the pseudonym Anonymous. It was titled A Warning, and followed it with Blowback, a warning to save democracy from Trump's revenge in 2023, detailing concerns about Trump's leadership and potential dangers of a second term. Taylor has since become a vocal critic of Trump, working as a commentator and co-founder of democracy reform groups, and Trump doesn't like it at all. So much so that he got out his Sharpie and signed an executive order targeting Miles Taylor. So now this guy's going to be, this author and critic and former staffer is going to be under investigation, possibly for treason. This was the other day, 2 days ago.
That he has in light of his past activities involving classified information. It's also going to order the Department of Justice to investigate his activities to see what else might come up in that context, given his egregious behavior during your previous administration.
And I had no idea who this guy was. I had no idea. I saw him on CNN, or one of them, I guess CNN, a lot. He'd be on all the time saying that the president is the president. I had no idea. It's like, in this office you have a lot of young people, and they're here. I'll see him for 2 minutes, and I assume he was in the office, but I barely remember him. It was somebody that went out and wrote a book and said all sorts of terrible things that were all lies, and it was like he was this gentleman or that gentleman, like I dealt with him all the time. I had no idea who this guy. I said, who the hell is Miles Taylor? And he made a living on going on CNN talking about the president. And I think what he did, he wrote a book Anonymous, said all sorts of lies, bad things. And I think it's like a traitor. It's like spying. He walks into the office. He's supposed to be sitting here. A lot of people, I'll be here, and there'll be 20 people standing in the room. There'll be oftentimes young people in the office. I assume he was one of them at least. But I didn't know anything about him. And he wrote a book, Anonymous, and I always thought it was terrible. And now we have a chance to find out whether or not it was terrible. But it was a work of fiction. Got a lot of publicity. Got himself a nice job with CNN, or one of them. And I think we have to do something about it. You can't have that happen. If that happens to other presidents, it wouldn't be sustainable for other presidents. They seem to be able to sustain. But if that happened to other presidents, it's just unfair. And if it was a Democrat president, I'd say that's a terrible thing. A thing like that can happen. That's a terrible thing. And it's time to find out whether or not somebody can do that. Can they write a book about very confidential meetings, and because they happen to be one of a lot of people in a room, and they go out and write a book, and worse than that, call it anonymous, like it's a big deal, and everybody's saying, who is it? Then it was found out who he was a long time later, and he got a lot of publicity off that one. He's like a promoter. But we're going to find out whether or not somebody's allowed to do that. I think it's a very important case, and I think he's guilty of treason, if you want to know the truth, but we'll find out. And I assume we're recommending this to the Department of Justice.
Yes, sir.
raises a lot of questions. Not the least of which is it appropriate for the United States, for the president of the United States rather, to take that step to sign an executive order directing the Department of Justice to investigate Taylor, strip him of any active security clearances. The order also targets Chris Krebs, another former official. Trump has accused Taylor of leaking classified information and betraying national interests. And it alleges that he illegally published classified conversations. Now, the DOJ did previously look into this, and no charges were laid at the time, which indicates that, didn't rise to the level of a crime. I don't know. Taylor maintains that his actions were lawful dissent, not treason. And in response to the executive order, he has said on social media, quote, "Dissent isn't unlawful. It certainly isn't treasonous. America is headed down a dark path." He argues his writings exposed legitimate concerns about Trump's conduct serving the public interest. His books and op-ed focus on policy disagreements and internal dysfunction, not direct leaks of classified documents. There's no public evidence he disclosed specific classified materials in a manner akin to criminal leaking. His critics argue his descriptions of internal deliberations breached confidentiality. I'm not sure where he stands with possible an NDA or non-disclosure agreement. I don't know, but legal experts note that whistleblower protections or First Amendment rights could apply, but this also depends on whether his disclosures involved protected information. So no charges, as I say, have been filed against Taylor as of this moment, even after all this time, and the DOJ investigation's outcome is unclear. The Espionage Act requires intent to harm the U.S. or aid a foreign power, a high bar, not really publicly substantiated at all in this case. Ethical debates around this continue tonight. Some see him as a whistleblower exposing malfeasance. Others view him as disloyal for airing internal matters anonymously. And without court rulings or declassified evidence, it's all speculative to conclude wrongdoing definitively. And then when you compare what he did versus, say, what Julian Assange did or Edward Snowden, well, they are often cited in discussions of leaks due to their high-profile disclosures of classified information. And if you look at the Taylor case, he wrote this anonymous op-ed and books criticizing Trump's leadership. It was all based on his personal experience and being in those meetings, and not stolen documents or hacked documents or anything like that. So it's a different kind of scenario. You look, though, at, say, Julian Assange. He published thousands of classified U.S. military and diplomatic documents, classified, obtained via leaks, notably mostly from Chelsea Manning, and facilitated mass leaks of raw, stolen, classified data through WikiLeaks, including hacked emails. He encouraged leakers to provide sensitive materials. He encouraged it. He was indicted on 17 Espionage Act charges and hailed as and one computer misuse charge. Anyway, a lot of people hold him up and hail him as a hero. A lot of people in the MAGA camp. So too with Edward Snowden, who leaked classified NSA documents in 2013, exposing global surveillance programs targeting U.S. citizens and allies. And he shared those materials with journalists. As an NSA contractor, he copied and stole vast amounts of classified data, like stole it, and then distributed it to media outlets like The Guardian, and then took off to Russia to avoid prosecution. He was charged with 3 Espionage Act violations, faced up to 30 years in prison, and he's still in Russia, where he has now been granted citizenship and has not had a U.S. trial, at least not to this point in time. I don't know, man. Like they had stolen documents, classified information. They released it, and people say, well, you got to let them go because it's in the public interest to disclose that information and distribute it. They're heroes. But this guy, because he did it to Trump, a lot of people in the Trump camp are saying that guy's a traitor. But he didn't, as far as we can tell, he didn't steal anything. There were no hacks, no stolen documents. It was just him being in the meetings. So it's a different set of circumstances altogether. And again, I think a lot of it's going to come down to what were his obligations as an employee in his position. Did he take an oath or make a promise or sign an NDA, which restricted him from revealing any of this information from these meetings? Certainly disloyal, but maybe that's because he just didn't believe in what Trump was doing or wanted to sound an alarm bell about things that he thought were unjust or improper or unethical or were, just bad for people. So depends a lot on your perspective. And then how will the law really apply in this case? We'll have to wait and see. The establishment often frames leakers as threats, but context always matters. In Taylor's case, it seems more about political retribution here than national security, honestly. Trump's rhetoric using the word treason and timing suggests that targeting critics over substantive crimes. Assange and Snowden, however, operated, outside government, handling stolen data with broader consequences, and their leaks exposed verifiable evidence of systemic abuse that Assange Snowden provided, making, his case, I guess, less defensible in terms of him being like a whistleblower, but also less maybe legally perilous. The Espionage Act's broad application in all these cases raises questions about free speech versus security. And this is something, it's like a tension that remains unresolved in many respects in U.S. law. So I think maybe this case ultimately might end up being precedent setting in itself. But without more evidence, we need more information here. Without that, Taylor's wrongdoing in this case remains, really unproven. And this is likely to be a political flashpoint rather than a clear-cut crime, say, like Assange's or Snowden's data leaks. This one, folks, is a little bit of a different animal. And like everything else, regardless of the facts, people are going to pick a side, and it will result in more political polarization. Of that much, I am certain.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, we're back. Speaking of polarization, political polarization, all you gotta do today is look and see what's going on, just even here in Canada and the US when it comes to Passover and pro-Palestinian protests. Wow. Here's Donald Trump today speaking to the Jewish families, gathering of friends and loved ones this week. Here he is.
I want to wish the Jewish people in America and Israel and all around the world a very happy Passover. Every year at this time, Jewish families celebrate God's liberation of the ancient Israelites from slavery in Egypt, guiding them through the prophet Moses on a 40-year journey to a very, very promised land. The story of Exodus, which is retold around the globe and all over the world at every Passover Seder, is a reminder not only of the enduring strength of the Jewish people, but of the importance of putting our faith in Almighty God no matter what the circumstance. To all the Jewish families gathering with friends and loved ones this week, have a blessed Passover.
That was Trump on that. And well, that message has been delivered. We also saw this today on Parliament Hill in Canada. Massive pro-Palestinian protests.
Free Palestine! Free Palestine! What's that? Free Palestine! Palestine will be free! Palestine will be free! Palestine will be free!
And of course, there were confrontations, yes, with some. And as usual, the Rebel News reporter got into the thick of it with some protesters. I won't bother showing you the video because it's theirs. So I think that's just becoming sort of standard fare. If there's a protest and Rebel News shows up, very likely that they're going to run right in there and get assaulted or something, accidentally on purpose, maybe. Jesus, just saying. It just every time. You know how many protests I've been to in my life? Like thousands, probably. You know how many times I've been assaulted? 0. Never. Not even one time. No matter what side, no matter what the issue, I've been to, I'm just saying. Never, not even one time. I've had confrontations with people yelling at me and stuff, but I've never, ever been assaulted. Never got into a confrontation, nothing physical ever. Not even one time. Close when somebody touched me. And an officer said, "Do you want us to charge that person?" And I said, "Nah," because it wasn't really that big a deal. But I'm just saying, I don't know. And yet some people just seem to get assaulted every time they go to a protest. Why does that happen? Somebody really don't like them, or I don't know. How does that happen? Jesus. Donate now. Donate now. Help us fight. Did you see the $600,000 election campaign that Ezra Levant just launched with the truck going around? What's he call it? I don't know. It's like a third party political campaign. Yeah, $600,000. That's what he's raising for that. They can spend up to $600,000. But hey, you know what? If someone, it feels so inclined, if you could consider donating, like maybe, I don't know, I'll tell you $10, $10, and I'll send you a 10-song collection of freedom tunes, including the opening song that we ran at the beginning of the show, Freedom for All, which somebody was inquiring about just the other night. $10, not $600,000, just $10. and that'll help keep this operation rolling along. $10. And you can donate at, just in passing, just thinking about it, okay? Here it is on the bottom of the screen. You can donate by e-transfer to rw581@aol.com. There on the bottom of the screen. Please complete the security question, apply the answer Maverick, all in lowercase, or you can donate straight through at the PayPal by going to freedomreporters.com. That takes you to the PayPal donation link. And yeah, I mean, you donate anything you want. Don't donate $1. I'll take that. That would be great. $1. If we earned $1, 600 grand. Jeez. Where does the money come from? I don't know. There's not much transparency there. I don't know, man. I don't know. Just, Rick, what are you talking about? How dare you talk like that? Too much truth. Shut up, Rick. I'll be right back.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Hey. This is a sad story. This one. This is about a Wisconsin teen allegedly killing his parents in an extremist plot to assassinate Donald Trump. This whole thing is just twisted. Makes no sense, but this guy left a manifesto, I guess. I'll show you the ABC version of the story, but it's also out there across media outlets, including independents, tonight. Here it is here. A Wisconsin teen allegedly killed his parents to obtain the financial means and autonomy necessary to kill President Donald Trump and overthrow the U.S. government. Federal authorities have said in court documents. Nikita Kasip, 17, was arrested back in March and charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder and 2 counts of hiding a corpse. According to Waukesha County authorities, other charges include theft of property for 10 grand, misappropriating ID to obtain money. Court documents show investigators are pursuing federal charges, including conspiracy, presidential assassination, and use of weapons of mass destruction. The teen's stepfather, Donald Meyer, 51, and mother Tatiana Kasip, 35, were both found dead inside their home by the Waukesha County Sheriff's Department on March 1st, according to a press release from the department. Here, I'm going to show you the going to run the ABC report just a little bit here.
Federal search warrant, unsealed Friday, details a murder plot as part of a plan targeting President Donald Trump. The documents attribute that plot to 17-year-old Waukesha student Nikita Kasip. Charged in the shooting deaths of his mother, Tatiana, and stepfather, Donald Meyer, inside their home February 11th. According to prosecutors, the teenager stayed inside the home with their bodies for 12 days.
Victim B body was appeared to have been deceased for some time, was unable to definitively identify who it was.
Police arrested Kasap in Kansas weeks later, finding him with his stepfather's car, gun, and $14,000. The motive for the murders, according to the federal warrant, was to use that money to fund a plan calling for the president's assassination, to, quote, foment a political revolution in the United States and save the white race. According to the records, Kasap shared an affinity for the neo-Nazi group, the Order of Nine Angles. And they also reference a 3-page manifesto quoted as saying, as to why, specifically Trump, I think it's obvious. By getting rid of the president and perhaps the vice president, that is guaranteed to bring some chaos. The records show Kasap on the platform's TikTok and Telegram discussed buying a drone to use in an attack. And investigators say he told a classmate, quote, when they saw 10 consecutive attacks in the news, it would have been him.
Wow. It's just sad. I've covered a number of stories over the years involving young people who've like killed their parents. They're the most tragic stories out there. And yeah, I don't know what else to say about it. Let's just move on. That's horrific. Let's take a break, okay? Yeah, let's just take a break after that.
Maverick News. The world is watching. Maverick News. Fighting for...
Okay, so as I say, it's kind of a strange day today because on the campaign circuit, because didn't really see like a major rally for the Polievre campaign, and Carney also sort of not campaigning either. But Poilievre was back in Ottawa today, and he was announcing this new conservative government initiative, saying a conservative government would put more into helping Canadian veterans. Here, I'll show you what he's posting on social media, and he also stopped in Ottawa. It was a campaign event, but not like a full-blown rally today. So let me show you. This is what he posted right there. Our veterans fought for our country, our people, and our freedoms. A new conservative government will put our veterans first for a change. And he says, conservatives will fight for our veterans, helmets to hard hats, help veterans earn powerful paychecks while using their skills, review and remove clawbacks of military pensions for working veterans, automatically approve disability applications if not processed within 16 weeks, and build a national monument to Canada's mission in Afghanistan. Let's just take a look a little bit at what he had to say during his stop in the nation's capital today. It was also in large part a pro-law enforcement, anti-crime message that was delivered today.
All right, well done. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup tout le monde. Bonjour tout le monde. Jour 21 de l'élection du changement.
Okay, let me get to the English right
Thank
away.
you very much, everyone. 21st day of the change election campaign, and we have the great Barbara Ball here, our candidate in Nepean, military veteran herself. When she was a very young woman, she used to actually pick up massive howitzer artillery shells and fire them off. So she still has her hearing, though, somehow, amazingly. And I said that at one of our previous press conferences, and she ran off. She was worried that I might have got the weight of the howitzer shells wrong. It turned out I did. They're not 100 pounds, they're 103 pounds. So if she can carry that kind of weight, then she can definitely represent the great people of Nepean. And it is great to be back here. Nepean, a great place to be in, as they like to say. As you know, Barbara served in the Royal Canadian Artillery for a decade and has worked for over many years, in the 25 years actually, as a member of the police service, mostly here in Ottawa. She is a very strong voice, and her major focus has been on making life affordable and safe again in Nepean. I was just talking to Barbara outside, and I said, what are people saying at the doors? And many are saying they can barely hang on. Interest rates on their very high mortgages are really pinching their families, budgets, threatening their ability to stay in their homes. Liberal inflation has driven up food 37% faster in Canada than in the U.S. The Liberal housing crisis has doubled the cost of owning a home and renting one, and people are saying they can't afford a fourth term of Liberals under Mr. Carney and the same Liberal MPs, ministers, and strategists who gave us the lost Liberal decade. Yet Mark Carney is in hiding today and yesterday. He was trying to make Canadians forget that the government for which he was the economic advisor doubled housing costs, doubled lineups at food banks, doubled our national debt, sent $500 billion pouring out of our country, that for the first time in our history, after a decade of Liberals, our youth can't afford homes or start families. He's trying to make Canadians forget that crime is raging out of control. And he's hiding from questions about his own multi-million dollar conflicts of interest that he does not want to disclose, even though he admits that he has them. That is more evidence that we need change. We need change to make your life affordable again, change to make your streets safe, change to strengthen our economy so that we can stand on our own 2 feet and stand up to the Americans and any other foreign economies that seek to threaten us. That's why I'm so excited to have a team that will bring that change. We have Greg Kung from Canada, Blair Turner from Ottawa South, Dean Wyth from Vanier, Steve Mansour from Orleans, Paul Ossonen from Ottawa Centre, 35-year veteran of the Canadian Armed Forces himself. We're also joined by the folks from Valor Guard Protection, a veteran-owned business that is giving civilian jobs to veterans in the field of private security. These brilliant and brave men and women have kept Canadians safe in our military, and now they keep businesses and other places safe from threats here at home. Before I get into addressing the policy at hand, let me just say that we need strong leadership to deliver the change that Canadians need in these challenging times. The change that I'm talking about will mean that Canadians will be able to live in safe neighbourhoods again, because we'll lock up criminals, that they'll be able to bring home more of their paycheck because we will cut their taxes, that they will get more and better tools at work because we're going to unleash more investment by allowing capital gains taxes to be reinvested with no tax as long as they're reinvested here in Canada. They'll be able to afford homes as we axe the federal sales tax on housing, and we incentivize municipalities to lower their development taxes to save $100,000 a home. But no one deserves the Canadian promise more than our brave veterans who defended it in the first place. Canadians owe everything to our veterans. Their sacrifices have made it possible for us to live in one of the freest and safest countries in the world. The veterans that have sacrificed so much to defend our country deserve to have all of us championing them. They put everything aside so future generations can enjoy the same peace and security we enjoy today. In return for that sacrifice, Canada's veterans deserve a government that fights for them. That's a core part of the Canadian promise. But after the lost Liberal decade, the government has failed our veterans. Too often, they face bureaucratic roadblocks that prevent them from accessing their benefits or earning a living. Time and again, the Liberals have promised to stand by our veterans but have let them down. Despite promising the veterans would never have to fight their own government in court, that's exactly what the Liberals continue to do. En tant que Canadiens, on doit tout à nos vétérans, nos anciens.
Okay, let me just...
Besoin de se battre en cours pour leur propre bénéfice, c'est exactement ce que le gouvernement a forcé nos vétérans à faire. When our veterans said that they needed help and they needed the benefits that they had earned, Justin Trudeau said famously that they were asking more than we are able to give right now, right after handing millions of dollars to a convicted terrorist. The Liberals also promised to bring back lifelong pensions for injured veterans, but they broke that promise too. They pledged to make it easier for veterans to access services. Yet under the Liberals, veterans were left stranded as the number of case managers was cut and the number of veterans waiting for disability benefits exploded. Today, I'm announcing that my Conservative government will put veterans first for a change. As Prime Minister, I will ensure veterans' benefits are in place before they leave the military and will automatically approve disability applications if they are not treated within 16 weeks. We will give veterans full control of their medical records. We will let military doctors assess injuries using one standardized system and ensure PTSD service dogs are available to veterans who need them with consistent national standards for support. We will also let them access education and training benefits to immediately kick in right on the release date without unnecessary delays that push back the ability of young veterans to get trained up for a new job. Just as the last Conservative government did, we will support the Helmets to Hard Hats program, allowing veterans to go from service in the military to service in the civilian economy, fixing up big machines like this one, for which they would already have lots of experience working on heavy machinery in the forces. We will add spouses of veterans and Canadian Armed Forces members who want work with the Canadian government to the Veterans Hiring Act. And speaking of that, we will expand the veterans hiring preference so that we double the number of public service jobs that are preferred for veterans. We'll also prefer veteran-owned businesses for federal contracts. We're going to double the number of veterans that are hired every year working in government positions so that they can take their precious military experience and use it to deliver across all government services, but in particular in the Veterans Affairs Department. And for our veterans leaving the military for good jobs in the private sector, we will provide you with the documentation you need to have your skills recognized. I want to work with the Red Seal Council, which is the national licensing body for the trades, to find a way to get recognition for trades-related work that military members have done in the forces. So if you've worked on heavy machinery in the forces, we should be giving you hours recognition when you come out so that you have a shorter time span to get your Red Seal license in a similar trade. We should ensure that colleges and polytechnics also provide recognition for the military skill sets that people pick up. So when I was a Minister of Employment, we partnered with BCIT, the trade school in that province, to get course recognition for military experience. So if you had a background in leadership in the military, well, you shouldn't have to take a bunch of entry-level courses on leadership when you go to BCIT or another educational institute. We will do pilot projects that encourage universities, colleges, polytechnics, training halls to give credit for things already learned, so that there's a shorter training time that launches our brilliant veterans from a career in the military into a high-paying job in the private sector. We're also going to work to make sure that military veterans get the support they deserve. Our government will guarantee that you will keep more of what you earn. So right now, we're punishing the work of veterans. A veteran comes out there on a military pension. They get a job, they immediately start triggering clawbacks. So the government says, well, you don't need that support payment anymore because you've got your own job. Well, the job should be giving them extra income. It shouldn't be a replacement income. Why would we want to punish a veteran who's maybe 45 years old and goes out into the private sector and offers something to our economy? They should get more money. So we're going to review and reduce the military clawbacks for earned income to allow the veterans to have a big, powerful paycheck. I want them to bring home more money. They earned their pension, and now they're earning an income. One should stack on top of the other. We shouldn't replace one with the other. We're going to make hard work pay off for all Canadians, but it should be especially rewarding for our veterans. We will also recognize the veteran service cards as valid government ID nationwide. We will complete a national monument to Canada's mission in Afghanistan. It's really incredible. You know, the beginning of this century saw Canadians go over to literally the most dangerous place in the world. And pound for pound, other than maybe the British and the Americans, maybe, there's no one that did more than the Canadians to defeat the Taliban and crush al-Qaeda in the aftermath of 9/11. Our young people went there, they faced IEDs and some of the most brutal opponents on the battlefield, and there's still no completed national monument. This is outrageous. You know, this is, it's been 15, 20 years. And these people who gave so much, they deserve to be recognized, and they need a place to go to express themselves and to live out their memories and really experience the gratitude that we should all have for the enormous courage that they showed. We will also officially recognize Persian War veterans, Persian Gulf War veterans, and their wartime service. After the lost Liberal decade, Canada's veterans can't afford a fourth Liberal term of disrespect and broken promise. Nos anciens combattants méritent mieux.
Okay.
Ils se sont battus pour nous.
So we're into the French now, so we'll just dip rid of that. And we'll take a very short break, and then when we come back, we're going to do Trump derangement syndrome TikTok scroll. Stay with me. I will be right back.
Maverick News. Fighting for freedom.
All right. And so in fairness, for any criticism I've leveled at the Donald. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. John from Iowa, USA. President Donald Trump. I hereby offer you a Trump derangement syndrome Twitter scroll. All I've done is I've just typed in Trump derangement syndrome. This is it. Unedited, uncensored, maybe even unethical, unhinged. Let's let it roll and see what we get. This is the result of a search inquiry. Trump derangement syndrome.
Well, it's one thing not to like Trump, but how many years has this perpetual meltdown been happening? It's a perpetual meltdown. They call it Trump derangement syndrome. I call it a fucking temper tantrum, a meltdown of children that's been nonstop. Look, I get you don't like the guy, but to have a lifelong temper tantrum about anything he does. Donald Trump cures cancer. Well, he didn't invent that. No, he stole that from someone. Donald Trump helps single mom and moves her into an apartment and pays it up for 2 years. Well, he only did that to look good to black people. He's trying to trick black people. Donald Trump extends funding to HBCUs. He only did that because he thinks he's going to get the black vote. So wait a second. So what's the incentive to even do anything good? If you're going to say, if he does good or bad, you're going to call it bad. What kind of person are you? Are these people even real? Are they NPCs?
I've acknowledged lots of the good things he's done over time. When he did good things.
I don't know what these people are. You know, it's one.
Nobody knows the system better than me.
Much music. Gonna get a copyright strike.
Nobody knows.
Next.
So I thought like Trump derangement syndrome would be like the people who are crazy for Trump. No. I guess I have Trump derangement syndrome because I hate him.
He's not done breaking things. You might be next on his list. Imagine trusting him with the real toys. He's not done breaking.
Ah, yes. Trump derangement syndrome. I've heard that before. It's a made-up diagnosis by a man who thinks he's a medical expert, a stable genius, and the second coming, all in one person. He's a classic narcissist, and this is classic narcissistic projection. And just like that, his followers parrot the phrase like it's in the DSM. Here's the reality. I don't dislike Trump because I'm deranged. I dislike him because he's a malignant narcissist. He's incapable of empathy. He's obsessed with admiration. He's driven by his fragile ego. And he's not concerned with being a leader. He's just concerned with his ego. His entire personality is a case study in narcissistic personality disorder with a side of delusional disorder. And also, Whoopi Goldberg and Oprah, are you just a racist naming black women you don't like? Neither of them reports the news, but, you know, I get my information from actual journalism, not true social memes or Fox's Rage Factory. But hey, if repeating Trump's slogan helps you feel better, you do you. Just don't confuse your blind loyalty with my critical thinking. Ah, yes.
MAGA is the most deranged of them all. They eat everything I tell them to. I could throw up in their mouths and they would thank me. MAGA is the most deranged of them all.
Jeez.
Some of the assessments of Trump's personality in the book include the following, and mind you, these are assessments made by professionals who work in the area of mental health. Trump is an impulsive, immature, incompetent person who, when in the position of ultimate power, would easily slide into the role of tyrant. His sociopathic characteristics are undeniable and present a profound threat to democracy. He is profoundly an evil man exhibiting malignant narcissism. And if left unchecked, his pathological narcissism could lead to World War III. I would encourage members of the media who haven't looked at this book to please take a look at it and get a real look into the kind of person that Donald Trump is, if you don't know already from the insanity that comes out of his mouth. To our political leaders, I say Canada cannot engage with him as we do with other normal leaders. He has shown himself to be an enemy to Canada, and we have to treat him as a clear and present danger to our country and to our allies. And to the Canadian media, I say, begin telling the story of the fascist sociopath occupying the White House using that language, so that Canadians in the world know the very real danger he presents to peace and stability. During World War II, over 45,000 Canadian soldiers, sailors, and airmen paid the ultimate price to defend Canada from a fascist threat, as did millions of others from allied nations. Let's not let those sacrifices be in vain as we face another fascist threat today. And as we mark the 60th anniversary of the Canadian flag, all Canadians who say that they love Canada, who want to continue to build the just society that Pierre Trudeau spoke of over 50 years ago, who want to protect our communities from the fascist, racist, misogynistic, and transphobic demagogue that is trying to destroy Canada, we need to stand together and defend our flag, our country, and our sovereignty. Thank you.
Well, it doesn't get much worse
Gold
than that.
medal for Trump derangement syndrome.
Freeman, Mookie.
Oh my god.
I'm starting to think that TDS should be a real clinical diagnosis. My background is in alternative.
My husband isn't as chronically online as I am, and he's working from home today, so he'll randomly be in between meetings and stuff, and he'll like find me wherever I am and go like, can you believe, and like tell me something that he's seen online, and just no, he just goes, do you know that there are people that are trying to say that Trump is crashing the economy on purpose so that interest rates will get lowered so everyone can afford the American dream? And I just looked at him like, oh, I've heard more than just that. They're just like, they've just literally lost their entire life savings, but they really believe that Trump gives a fuck and he's gonna make it so they can finally buy a house. And we just laughed and laughed. This cult will be studied. It will be studied. My husband is...
Hillary Clinton has Trump derangement syndrome, according to President Trump.
I often get comments on my videos that I must have Trump derangement syndrome. Someone from MAGA world is always jumping in with their opinion of why I'm always pointing out the flaws of Donald John Trump and his voters. But I'll have to agree with them this time, because I do have a severe case of Trump derangement syndrome. After watching what he did unprovoked with his worldwide tariff nuclear war that one of his supporters mentioned that he started unprovoked. Yeah, I have Trump derangement syndrome. And you know why? Because I think he's deranged.
Okay. Well, folks, on that note, I was just trying to provide a little levity at the end. Some of that was pretty dark and maybe food for thought. I will leave you for this evening with, what shall we run tonight? Well, we ran Orange Orangutan Man the other night. Let's leave you with MAGA Mars. And on that note, I will be back tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern, on the flip side.
He's got a plan. It's bold and grand, taking over land, sea and sand. Canada's ours. Greenland's in the mix. The Panama Canal's just another fix. But Mars, oh Mars, you pesky red sphere, your spying drones are making it clear. It's a threat to Earth, a cosmic sin. But don't worry, folks, he'll make Mars great again. MAGA Mars, you're the 53rd state. Under Trump, your future is great. With Elon Musk and the Space Force too. We're slapping tariffs on your Martian crew. Make Mars great, yeah, make Mars ours. Wave that flag on the red rock stars. We'll impose sanctions, taxes, and fines. Martian exports know they're crossing the line. The Martians cry foul, but Trump doesn't care. He'll build a space wall floating up there. Elon's on board with rockets ablaze. The stock market's loving this Martian craze. He says, trust me folks, I know the deal. Martian gold is ours, this plan is real. MAGA Mars, you're the 53rd state. Under Trump, your future is great. With Elon Musk and the Space Force too. We're slapping tariffs on your Martian crew. Make Mars great, yeah, make Mars ours. Wave that flag on the red rock stars. Yeah, Mars hotels with golf resorts. Intergalactic trade reports. A MAGA dome where Martians bow. We've got the best Martians, Trump says now. Fake news claims the plan's absurd, but Trump tweets back, it's the final word. Martian drones not on my watch. Space Force ready to kick it up a notch. MAGA Mars, you're the 53rd state. Under Trump, your future is great. With Elon Musk and the Space Force too. We're slapping tariffs on your Martian crew. Make Mars great, yeah, make Mars ours. Wave that flag on the red rock stars. So buckle up for the Martian fight. Trump's taking over the Martian night. It's all for freedom, it's all for the win. Oh, say can you see, he'll make Mars great again. Make Mars great, yeah, make Mars ours. Wave that flag on the red rock stars. So buckle up for the Martian fight. Trump's taking over the Martian night. It's all for freedom, it's all for the win. Oh, say, can you see, he'll make Mars great again.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.